Princess Lilibet Diana had been christened. Why would they use a title for their children that represents an institution they loathe so much? Well, Harry and Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim.
What if the biggest royal mystery of the decade wasn't about a king, a crown, or a palace scandal, but about two children whose names quietly sit inside the royal line of succession? For years, the world has been watching the drama surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Interviews, accusations, documentaries, podcasts, you name it, the saga delivered it. But now, a new question is exploding across headlines, and this time the spotlight has shifted somewhere no one expected. Straight onto the names of their children, Archie Mountbatten Windsor and Princess Lilibet Diana. Suddenly, journalists, commentators, and royal insiders are whispering about records, titles, timelines, and decisions that don't quite line up the way people thought they did. And then, right in the middle of this growing storm, one voice refuses to stay quiet. Piers Morgan. Love him or hate him, Morgan has thrown a question into the public arena that refuses to go away. A question that's now bouncing between media studios, royal watchers, and social media detectives who are digging through every detail they can find. Because if everything is exactly as it should be, then why do so many pieces of this story feel like they are still missing? And once you see the details people are now talking about, you might start asking the same thing. The question surrounding the children of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle did not appear overnight. In fact, anyone who has followed royal drama over the past few years knows this story has been quietly building like pressure behind a locked palace door. And when pressure builds long enough, something eventually cracks. For a long time, the global conversation revolved around Harry and Meghan themselves. Their explosive departure from the royal family. Their interviews. Their Netflix projects. Their public criticism of royal traditions that had existed for centuries. It felt like every few months another headline appeared, another interview aired, another moment that pushed the tension between the couple and the monarchy even further into the spotlight. And yet, behind all of that noise, two names remained mostly untouched by the chaos. Archie Mountbatten Windsor and Princess Lilibet Diana. For years they were simply described as the children growing up far from palace walls. Children being raised in California, thousands of miles away from the royal system that once defined their family's identity. But slowly, quietly, something began to shift. Royal watchers started noticing details that didn't quite match the traditional pattern. Timelines that seemed slightly unusual. Announcements that looked different from previous royal births. Small inconsistencies that, on their own, seemed harmless. But when placed together, they started forming a pattern that was harder to ignore. And this is where the story takes its first dramatic turn. Because one of the loudest voices in British media suddenly decided those questions deserved answers. Enter Piers Morgan. Morgan has never been known for whispering his opinions. When he sees something controversial, he tends to grab a microphone and turn the volume all the way up. And this time was no different. During a recent broadcast discussion, Morgan raised a question that instantly ignited debate across the internet. It wasn't framed as an accusation. It wasn't presented as a conspiracy. It was, on the surface, a simple question. But the implications behind it were anything but simple. Why, he asked, do certain details surrounding Archie and Lilibet still appear unclear years after their births? The moment that question aired, social media erupted. Screenshots began circulating. Commentators started digging into old interviews. Royal blogs and forums filled with speculation faster than palace staff could probably finish their morning tea. Some viewers immediately dismissed the conversation as unnecessary drama. Others, however, became deeply curious. Because once people started looking back, the timeline became strangely interesting. Take Archie's birth announcement, for example. In previous royal births, details had followed a predictable pattern: doctors' signatures, official palace notices, precise timing shared publicly. The process was practically a ceremonial checklist. But in Archie's case, the announcement arrived differently. Certain traditional elements were missing. The timing of information releases appeared slightly delayed. And the level of official medical confirmation did not match what many royal observers were used to seeing. At the time, most people shrugged it off as a modern approach. After all, Harry and Meghan had already made it clear they intended to do things their own way. But years later, those small differences suddenly started attracting new attention. And then something even stranger surfaced. A royal documentation detail that had quietly changed long after the original record was issued. According to archived records circulating online, the original birth registration reportedly listed Meghan's full name. Later versions, however, show the entry adjusted to reflect only her royal title. To casual observers, it might seem like a minor technical update. But inside royal protocol, documentation changes are rarely random. Naturally, this triggered another wave of speculation. Was the adjustment requested by palace officials? Was it made by Meghan's team? Or was it simply an administrative change that somehow became a much bigger story than intended? Nobody seemed to have a clear answer. And that's exactly the kind of uncertainty that fuels internet detectives. Within hours, hashtags began trending. Comment sections filled with theories. Some users claimed insiders had hinted at internal confusion within palace administration. Others insisted the entire discussion was being exaggerated for headlines. Then came what many people described as the first real twist in the narrative. A screenshot of what appeared to be a leaked internal message, shared anonymously on a popular royal discussion forum, began circulating online. The message allegedly referenced concerns about documentation consistency and future title implications. Was it authentic? Was it fabricated? Or was it simply another internet rumor gaining traction because people wanted answers? No one could confirm its origin. But one thing was certain. The moment that message appeared online, the conversation exploded into something far bigger than anyone expected. Suddenly, this wasn't just another chapter in the Harry and Meghan saga. Now the focus had shifted somewhere much more sensitive. Straight into the question of identity, titles, and how royal history is recorded for generations to come. And once that door opened, it became almost impossible to close. But just when people thought the conversation had reached its peak, another twist suddenly pushed the story into an entirely different direction. Because the debate that had quietly started in royal forums and media panels was no longer staying there. Within hours, it spilled onto every major platform online. Twitter threads began multiplying faster than anyone could keep track of. Screenshots, timelines, archived documents. Every corner of the internet suddenly turned into a detective board. And at the center of it all were the same two names, Archie Mountbatten Windsor and Princess Lilibet Diana. One viral thread that quickly gained thousands of shares claimed to highlight 3 unexplained inconsistencies in how their royal documentation had been handled over the years. The post included cropped screenshots of records, old press releases, and archived announcements. Was it proof of something major? Or just clever internet speculation? No one could say for sure. But that didn't stop the conversation from spreading like wildfire. Meanwhile, news commentary panels began weighing in. Analysts debated whether the issue was being blown out of proportion or whether it pointed to a deeper institutional confusion. And right in the middle of the chaos, Piers Morgan once again stepped directly into the spotlight. During a heated television discussion, Morgan doubled down on his earlier comments, insisting that the situation raised legitimate questions about transparency. He didn't claim wrongdoing. He didn't accuse anyone directly. But his tone made it clear that he believed the public deserved clearer answers. That statement alone was enough to ignite another wave of reactions online. Within minutes, a hashtag began trending across social media. #RoyalRecords, one user wrote, "Something about this timeline just doesn't add up. Why are basic details still unclear years later?" Another user pushed back immediately, "This is ridiculous. Kids shouldn't be dragged into media drama." The comment sections turned into a digital battlefield. Some users defended Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, arguing that the couple had every right to raise their children privately, far from royal expectations. Others, however, insisted that royal titles and positions in the line of succession come with public accountability. Then came something that pushed the conversation even further into the spotlight. A well-known celebrity commentator, during a late-night podcast appearance, casually referenced the growing speculation, joking that the royal family's paperwork seemed more mysterious than a Hollywood thriller. Within hours, clips of the comment were circulating everywhere. Memes began appearing. Some showed detective boards covered with royal photos and red strings connecting documents. Others sarcastically captioned images of palace gates with the words, "Nothing to see here." Even major media outlets started picking up the story. Headlines began appearing across entertainment news websites and talk shows, each one framing the situation slightly differently. Some described it as a misunderstanding fueled by online speculation. Others suggested it reflected deeper tensions between modern celebrity culture and centuries-old royal traditions. And the more the story spread, the more divided the public became. Supporters of Harry and Meghan argued that the entire debate was unfair and intrusive. They pointed out that the couple had repeatedly spoken about wanting to protect their children from the intense scrutiny of royal life. Critics, however, argued something very different. If royal titles are being used publicly, titles tied to one of the most historic institutions in the world, then transparency about official records should not be controversial. The argument quickly escalated into something much bigger than a single document or announcement. Now it had become a cultural debate. Tradition versus privacy. Royal protocol versus modern independence. Institution versus individual choice. And as the debate intensified, one more unexpected detail suddenly surfaced online. A royal historian posted a thread referencing historical birth protocols dating back more than a century. According to the historian, every royal birth had traditionally been documented with extraordinary precision for one specific reason: lineage verification. The post didn't accuse anyone of wrongdoing, but the implication behind it was enough to send social media into another frenzy. Because if documentation is historically treated as one of the monarchy's most carefully protected systems, then why had this particular situation sparked so many lingering questions? Within hours, the debate had reached international headlines. Talk shows discussed it. Royal commentators analyzed it. And thousands of viewers began asking the same uneasy question. If everything about this story is completely ordinary, then why does the conversation refuse to fade away? Because sometimes the biggest controversies aren't the ones filled with loud accusations. Sometimes they are the ones built from quiet details that simply refuse to line up. And just as the debate seemed ready to settle into endless online arguments, a new rumor began circulating among royal insiders. A rumor suggesting that behind the walls of Buckingham Palace, something far more serious might already be happening. A quiet internal review. No public announcement. No official confirmation. Just whispers that certain records might be receiving a second look. And if those whispers turned out to be true, then the entire story might be about to take its biggest turn yet. And just when the storm of speculation seemed ready to calm down, another detail surfaced that completely shifted the direction of the conversation. Because while social media was busy arguing, debating, and turning the story into trending hashtags, something quietly appeared that caught the attention of royal historians and media analysts alike. It wasn't a viral tweet. It wasn't a celebrity comment. It was something far more unusual. A discussion that reportedly began behind the closed doors of Buckingham Palace. According to multiple royal commentators, palace advisors had started reviewing certain documentation procedures connected to royal lineage records. Not a public investigation. Not a press conference. Just a quiet internal review, something the monarchy has historically done when questions about official records begin circulating publicly. On the surface, this kind of review might sound routine. Institutions as old as the monarchy regularly revisit administrative processes. But this time the timing raised eyebrows. Because the review reportedly centered around records connected to two names already dominating headlines: Archie Mountbatten-Windsor and Princess Lilibet Diana. Suddenly the conversation online shifted again. If the palace really was revisiting documentation procedures, what exactly were they looking at? Some royal analysts suggested the review might simply be about modernizing processes for a family that now spans multiple countries. After all, Harry and Meghan's children are growing up in California, far from the traditional royal environment. But others weren't so sure. Because within royal tradition, birth records and titles are not treated as minor paperwork. They are the foundation of lineage. And lineage, in the monarchy, determines everything from titles to positions in the line of succession. Naturally, speculation exploded again. Some commentators suggested the palace might be quietly clarifying how royal titles apply to family members living outside the United Kingdom. Others believe the review could be part of a broader effort to simplify the royal structure as future leadership changes approach. And once again, one voice refused to stay quiet. Piers Morgan returned to the discussion during another broadcast appearance, pointing out that public confusion often grows when official explanations are missing. Morgan didn't claim to know the outcome of any review, but he made one observation that instantly grabbed headlines. If everything is completely straightforward, he asked during the discussion, why does the story keep evolving? That single question spread across social media within minutes. Commentators debated it. Fans argued about it. Critics dismissed it. But nobody seemed able to ignore it. Because the truth is, the story surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has always been unpredictable. Every time it seems to fade, another twist appears. Another interview. Another revelation. Another unexpected headline. And now, with the spotlight shifting toward Archie and Lilibet's titles, records, and future roles, the situation feels more complicated than ever. Some observers believe the controversy will eventually disappear once the palace provides clarification. Others think the silence itself is part of a strategy, allowing the news cycle to burn out naturally. But history has shown that royal mysteries rarely disappear overnight, especially when public curiosity is involved. Because once people begin asking questions about tradition, titles, and royal identity, those questions have a strange way of lingering. And right now, the biggest question of all remains unanswered. If a quiet review is truly happening behind palace walls, what exactly are they trying to confirm? Is this simply a routine administrative check? Or could it be the first step toward redefining how modern royal titles and lineage are handled in a world far different from the one that created them? No official statement has confirmed anything. No palace spokesperson has explained the full situation. But one thing is certain: the conversation isn't over. In fact, many royal watchers believe the biggest revelation might still be ahead. Because when stories involving the monarchy begin unfolding slowly and quietly, they rarely end without one final surprise. And if the rumors of internal reviews, document checks, and title discussions continue to grow, then the next update could change everything people thought they understood about this story. So now the real question becomes even more intriguing. Is this controversy slowly fading away? Or is it only just beginning? If you thought that twist was shocking, just wait until the next update. Because insiders are hinting that this story might be far from over. What do you think is really going on behind the scenes? Drop your opinion in the comments below, and if you want the next shocking update the moment it drops, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, the next revelation could change everything.